Hey guys and gals, we want to welcome you to Forgetting Walls this week. And we're doing this impromptu intro just to let you know that it's not one, but two parts to the podcast this week. Yep, we were very unprofessional, and we just couldn't keep our time down this week, so we're having to split the podcast up into two sections. So we want you to join us as we had a super great time, a blast, and just all around good fun with some guys that we know and we love, talking about the church, talking about inside and outside the walls, talking about erasing them. So join us now for part one and come back for part two. Here we go. Oh, hello everybody, and we want to welcome you to Forgetting Walls. I'm Keith.
I'm Justin.
And we usually say we have a special episode, like every episode for the past, 3 or 4 weeks. We got a special guest, but tonight is truly a special episode, special guest. We have we're in my garage this week because me and Justin are
in the same room at the same time.
Gosh. We don't even know how to act.
Like I said, reunited, baby.
So it's gonna be interesting tonight. So just to kind of fill everybody in, since y'all are joining us tonight, the recording may sound a little bit interesting because we are in my garage tonight because we have a buttload of people.
Yeah, we have a few. I'm surrounded by dudes.
Wow, how did that come out? I'm surrounded by dudes.
It's not an unusual thing.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting tonight, to say the least. We are trying something different. We have a total of 7 people tonight that's going to be on the show with us.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and start making introductions. You know me, and you know Justin.
Yep.
So we'll go around the room and just going to have everybody introduce themselves. We're going to start on this side of the room that nobody can see.
No one can see.
So it was great. So introduce yourself, tell everybody hey, and we'll start going.
Hey guys, I am also named Keith. Hopefully you won't get me confused. Probably not, because his voice is deeper than mine. But I am friends with all these guys. Guys, that's the best way to describe them. I was trying to think of a good, another good noun, but guys is the most politically correct to use.
Keith just sounds a little bit nervous, that's all.
That's pretty much my life. It's being nervous.
Yeah.
Same. Well, I'm Ryan, Keith's oldest son.
There you go.
And
family in the house.
Yep, family.
Which Keith?
Leave that up to the people. You decide.
That's interesting. That's an interesting statement.
My name's Brooks.
Formerly known as Soupy.
Yeah. The artist formerly known as.
DJ name.
Oh, onions are back.
Onions is back. Onions are back.
Robbie's back in the house.
Remember him from the last podcast?
Yeah. He didn't speak much because, I do a lot of talking.
Yeah.
I'm Graham. I'm here to make everybody else feel better about how they sound on recordings.
Well, we can honestly say that after 11 episodes of recording, it doesn't get any better listening to yourself.
No, I found kind of the opposite. I don't mind myself as much as I used to. Back when I listened to the first few podcasts, I hated the sound of my voice so much, and I would be like, "Oh, I'm speaking." No, but now I listen to it, and it doesn't bother me as much.
I always hate introducing myself. Period. I don't like saying my own name.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
It's hey guys.
I don't feel like I'm ever saying it right.
I just don't like talking.
Well, we hope as you listen to this podcast, you'll be able to differ between the voices. To differ between the voices.
Differentiate.
Differentiate. What'd you say over there?
Differentiate. I'll be fine. They were like, man, that dude's from North Carolina.
Yeah, well, I think pretty much we're all from North Carolina.
No.
Yeah, Robbie.
Except for Robbie. But it doesn't matter. It's been worn out of him except for loving the Bears.
Yeah.
That's his only downfall in life.
Hey, we're getting better. We're making some defensive pickups.
There you go. It's okay. We got it. I was just going to say, Justin, it's just your narcissist shining through.
Oh, absolutely. I love to hear myself talk.
Yeah,
So.
You're just so full of yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
You know me so well.
Yeah, well, it's not like we don't see each other every week talk about stuff every week. I almost spend much time with you as I spend with my wife. That's getting a little crazy.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Privilege.
But so, a little background information on the group that's sitting here. We have all known each other. I think Mr. Soupy was saying at least 6+ years. I go way back with at least one of them.
Naturally.
And a few of them have been around a long time. I've known Keith for a very long time, way back to the Ocean View days. Robbie's been around since the Ocean View days. Brooks and Graham and Justin, of course, came around when I was over at first. And we've just kind of all been together. We have actually all been together in the same ministry time format and done stuff together. So we thought it'd be cool to get everybody in that are now outside of youth age. Some of us getting a little bit older. Graham's always been outside of youth age.
For a while. He was never a teen. He skipped
the whole teenage period. He went right from birth to man.
Some could say.
But we have honestly been around each other for a long time, so hopefully there will be some interesting stories that may come from this. We covered one last week. I'll never live down, and then we just, I wanted to, because everybody now that is here is in a different phase of their life within the church, within Christianity, within people in general. We just like hearing different viewpoints, and I believe everybody sitting in the room has a different viewpoint, because what we do at Forgetting Walls is to look outside of nominal Christianity, looking outside of what people think the church is today, and trying to get a different perspective so that we can bridge the gaps, we can erase the walls, we can close the chasm to really get a hold on how we are to be the church today. And of course, we have Jack on, who's atheist agnostic, who sees differently than us, but it's so great to have a fresh perspective. So hopefully tonight, which it is night for a change for me and Justin, we are recording at night instead of the daytime, which means I can drink a beer while we record.
There we go.
Yes, and even though some people are not allowed to drink in their hometown, we're very honest and open, and we'll throw you right under the bus on this show. But so we're recording at night, so it's kind of cool. But yeah, we just hopefully everybody give a here we go. We're starting it off right. Fresh perspective. There we go. A little soupy DJing on the side. We're good. So man, we were all together. Well, we were pretty much all together Tuesday night, all hanging out.
Yeah, I think we all.
Yeah.
Well, Robbie came around later, but I think everyone was still there.
Yeah, we was all together Tuesday night. It's like the first time we've been at this group together in a while, which was cool. Yeah. I know a lot of people maybe listen to podcasts like, I really don't care. Who are these people? I don't know them. And if you are listening and going, oh, I know those guys. Yes,
sorry.
It's yeah, we all apologize. So anybody just...
Hand motions don't work on this podcast, Keith. This is an audio podcast.
I left the camera inside. We're going to record this one day. It'll be so much more horrible than an audio podcast. Oh my gosh, it goes so far back for us. I actually remember when most of these guys, I remember when all these guys were smaller.
Oh yeah.
Except for Graham. Graham's actually way smaller now than he was when
And me, I've always been this height. So.
Well, yeah, the height, but you were a hair skinnier when I first met you, with a little bit more hair.
A little bit,
a lot more hair.
Yeah.
Down to my shoulders.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I never met that version of you.
Mm-hmm. No, and most people didn't, because when Brooks finally came back to like when we was there doing youth ministry, when I was there at that church doing youth ministry, Brooks was like my project. I was always going to see Brooks, like consistently. Brooks, man, hey, come on that back out, man. And there were some issues going on, which we can get into those things very openly. And, so because I really want to get into that part later. But I would go out and Brooks would tell me what's going on, and I'm trying to reassure him that I'm not going to allow that to happen. And then finally we just got rid of that group, and then he was. Yeah. It was very different for the youth ministry at that place.
It was incredibly different.
Yeah.
Before and after.
I think it was just our philosophy as the leadership. Well, part of the leadership of that group in general that wanted to see what we're doing here, to see everybody to have an available chance to know, not just to be, we're not just trying to force, which I had some issues with my own theological teaching and the way I went about things, but the one thing I wanted to do is make sure we try to reach out in relationship, which I failed at that too. So, right. I guess I'm just a human being like everybody else here. So
way.
Huh?
No way.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
Oh,
Youth
yeah.
pastor, not a human being.
Oh my gosh, right? I'm just one step down below perfect. Only the senior pastor's perfect.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Youth pastor's one step down. You're one step.
A ledge down.
Because everybody's trying to reach that level, that pedestal that pastors sit on, and I don't blame the pastors. I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't really blame all the time the pastors because people put you in that position. I hated that position. I hated being looked at in that light. If I go to, why'd you hide the beer when I come over?
Yeah.
You shouldn't hide the beer. At least when I went to Robbie's house, his dad never hid the beer. You want one? Word. So we all, let's see, like I said, Robbie and Keith, of course, were way back in the day, and we've been around, and we talked about like the skating and stuff we did back in the Ocean View days and stuff, and we even tried to resurrect that really didn't work out. Nope. Not because, and I must say, at least when we were there, we didn't get a lot of flack of what we did on the outside in the parking lot. We were pretty open, I guess, at one point. We didn't have too many issues there. But
we were. It wasn't outside that was the problem.
No, it was never outside. As long as you were outside. But we went through a big phase where I think we just kind of crammed a lot of kids in a small space, played a lot of loud music, and did a lot of and we didn't play a lot of games. No. Well, actually, we didn't play any games. I don't think.
No games.
Well, like the very beginning, we played games for like the first two to 3 months.
Yeah. Well,
We'd go outside and do
talking
some
about
stuff.
Ocean View.
No, at first.
I think that was just like VBS.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
I remember doing some stuff during VBS.
Yeah, VBS was about it because we didn't like on Wednesday nights. We were pretty dedicated to
like worship and then message.
Yeah,
well, I remember like the very beginning. Like I remember.
Well, yeah, we
got to go outside and.
Yeah, we did do a few things. Yeah,
we did do a couple things.
Yeah, that it was just to appease the little kids.
Yeah,
it never amounted to much.
Hey, Robbie. Hey, Robbie. Robbie just wanted to play games. That's why I came.
Bro, I'll tell you what I miss. Y'all remember Underground Church?
Oh my god! Yeah. Let me explain something about. You know why Underground Church went away?
What was that?
Because I hold the record for the most kids hurt.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I mean,
you heard him, right?
Well, usually it was me.
So what is Underground Church?
I mean, some of those kids are in this room right now.
Hold on a second. Justin was never a part of Underground Church.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Underground Church is a game you play during lock-ins when it's dark. You turn off all the lights in the church, and what you would have is this one guard, the Roman soldier, and everybody else is...
the hiding Christians.
The Christians hiding, and then you have a missionary who goes, finds all the Christians and put them in a safe place.
Okay. And
you have to get everybody together in one place. Once you get everybody together in one place, you win. But if the guard catches you, he puts you in jail. And then when you go to jail, you have to do something really silly like sing Jesus Loves Me really loud like 100 times, and then you get out of jail.
Okay.
We had to add that part in because otherwise it would be a very dark game for kids to play.
Yeah, it was then interesting because...
Every other rule. Everyone's listening like, whoa.
Yeah, and the point to the game was it was just to have fun, but the problem is to do it right.
Yeah,
you had to do it in complete pitch black darkness, no lights on any wall. So the only place that has lights is the jail.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It just
so
sounds like a
fun.
recipe for disaster.
But
well,
it's
let's
so
see.
fun.
In the 4 times that I did it, the very first time a kid broke his nose.
Oh.
The second time I had a concussed kid. The third time, oh no, I take it back. I didn't do it 4 times. I did it 3 times. I did it 2 times at Ocean View, and then I did it 1 at first. And the first time I did it at first, poor little Brittany got stitches over her eye.
Oh,
yeah.
I remember
Remember
that.
that?
That was the one I was there.
Yeah,
jeez.
yeah. So, but it's a fun game.
Yeah.
It's just the problem is the kids don't follow the rules, and they, no running. Please,
List 3 people that got injured. It's a fun game.
Like
It
when
was
you
a
get
fun game,
found,
though.
you're supposed to just like get found and you get tagged and they take you to jail. But instead, like you get found and you're just like, you're not catching me, and you get up and you try to run in this dark room.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
gosh.
so there's maybe a coffee table sitting in the middle of the room that you don't
Yeah,
see.
I was about to say where the chairs at, like all the chairs at first. Did you move those?
no,
Or were they
no.
just there?
It's the church is as it is as you run around it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there was no moving of objects or anything of that nature.
Yeah,
so,
I definitely wasn't there for that.
yeah.
I remember
you
at
that-
Ocean
I do
View we
not
were playing, and I was like hiding underneath a coffee table,
Mm-hmm.
and Wesley was like the Roman guard because he wanted to be the Roman guard,
Yeah.
and like
Persecute
like I,
I think the biggest, strongest out of all of us would want to be the Roman guard.
and he like walks in the room, and like he knows I'm underneath this coffee table,
Yeah.
and he like walks around the room, and he's like, oh, I guess no one's in here, and then he like stands next to the coffee table and just like whips his head down. He's like, there you are. And I was like,
Well, and Wesley was the best guard because he's creepy. Wesley, I know you'll be listening because we're going to tell you to listen. But Wesley has this creepy way of creeping around the dark.
Yeah.
Very.
Dark. Broad daylight. Sun's out. Sun's out.
Yeah. It's,
daylight, but it comes full effect in the dark.
yeah, but because
Yeah, it's like an eel.
so
It all comes together.
if you ever get a chance, go check out Wesley Mintz on Facebook. We're just throwing it out there.
That's
Shout out.
INTZ.
Yeah, and go ahead and send him a shout out and saying, "Hey, Creepy West." No, but but Wesley's tall and he's a little deep voice like me, and he can, as big as Wesley is, like tall and everything, he can be very stealthy.
Oh,
It's
scary part.
that's the problem. It's like, all right, everybody's seen Mr. Deeds. Thank you. Mr. Deeds and sneaky. I'm sneaky. That's Wesley. He just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, how'd you do that?
You're too big to be.
And then when you throw pitch black darkness, and you already have anxiety of being found, because you're playing hide and seek, you have that anxiety like you're hiding, and you're like, I don't want to find me. And then all of a sudden it's like you hear something go, where are you at? And it comes out of nowhere, and you're like, oh. It was good. It was all in good fun. Underground Church was all in good fun. And actually, the funny thing about it, like Brooke said, it's a dark thing because we're reenacting like the persecution of the Christians inside.
Dang, you guys go hardcore.
It's a very dark game when you describe it. In this
Yeah.
That's why you have to add the, like, you have to sing in jail.
Yeah, you got to do something like, you've got to be a little
Otherwise,
more
it's like, man, we're left here to die in this jail.
yeah,
We
pretty much.
never discuss what happens after they go in jail. Like,
Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
impaled and stuff. And
Well, I was going to say we usually crucified them, but the parents weren't real happy
Aw,
after the
man.
first 2 kids.
Put that off there.
It was always tough to get my volunteers. Like when I was at Ocean View, all my volunteers were like college kids, so it was cool. Never had any issues, no parents issues. Moved over to First, it was all parents who were older than me, I think. And if they weren't older than me, they seemed older than me. And of course, I'm the most immature person you know. But it was like always hard to get them to go along with certain things. They're like, do you really think that's a good idea? But we did. Keith, did you ever join us on a camping trip? I don't know if you joined us on
I
a
never did.
Oh my gosh. But everybody else here has been on a camping trip.
Yeah.
We tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith kept dodging. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I really do.
I kept trying to
But
dodge
I've
it too,
never-
man. They finally got me. They put me in a van and they just took me.
Yeah. We drove up to Brooks's house and waited for him to come outside. We just grabbed him, put a hood over his
They
head.
cut my hair while they were at it.
Made sure his aunt was away.
Yeah. So I mean, we've done a lot of we have done as far as the guys side of, and that's the funny thing, in the youth ministries that I've been in, it's always been majority of girls. It's like dominated of girls, and I don't understand that because I'm not like a very feminist friendly guy.
Oh, really?
What you talking about, Justin?
Man. Shocking revelation.
Shocking revelation. I think I said last week I'm a very chauvinistic, sexist person. And I'm really not. I'm really not, am I?
No, I don't think so. What'd you say?
Well, I was actually very good on it. I was very.
I think it was kind of polite for him.
Yeah, I think I was. I think I was very polite.
Backhanded compliment.
It was, right? It's like, here, just to smack. Let me turn the left cheek.
Yeah. Nah, man, I don't think you're that bad.
No, I well.
For Keith.
For Keith, yeah. I've gotten a lot better.
Just in general.
I mean, because I used to walk around a church calling guys who weren't very manly Nancy. Hey, Nancy.
The Mark Driscoll method?
Yeah, the Mark Driscoll method. Yeah. Then I realized that only works with certain people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work with everybody. But I love picking on Keith. Keith was a good target at most times.
I'm still
He was
target.
easy.
Yeah. Well, man, we could keep them out. I could keep doing this all night.
Yeah.
I mean,
We haven't done this in a while.
we may never get to our topics tonight.
Yeah. Just keep going. Whatever.
But yeah, man, I missed the camp. We talked about the camping trips last week. I really do miss those things,
Yeah,
man.
I know.
It was good fun. I mean, I remember. I don't think any of you were there for the second one we went on, but we had you weren't, because it was like, and I was hoping Jeff. We're missing one guy tonight. Jeff was supposed to be here with us, but he was unable to make it. We are deeply saddened by that because I was so going to enjoy having him on with us.
Yeah.
Brilliant kid, and he knows me as good as anybody in this room because he's probably spent more time with me than anybody actually has in anybody's lifetime. But he was on the trip with us, and it was Donnie and Justin, and it was our German foreign exchange student Alex. And this goes to show you what kind of youth pastor I am. I mean, he was my exchange student. What kind of exchange host I was. We took him on his first camping trip. We showed him what eating deer was like, and he loved the deer and the potatoes and onions. That's what we do.
Yep.
Meat, potatoes, and onions.
Or in my case, peanut butter sandwiches.
And yes, in Justin's case, because Nancy. But yes,
okay, I got Keith beside me. So.
Hey, I love deer and potatoes and onions.
He's like, don't touch me, Nancy.
But it was we decided we need to initiate him. He wasn't here but like maybe a month or two.
Yeah.
And we was like, man, we really need to initiate him into American culture. So we tied him up hog style.
Oh, I remember that because I was on a hiking trip
That's
with
right.
the scout troop,
Right.
and you were like, "Hey, do you have any rope that we could have?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "I do actually have rope in my backpack. Just give it back to me at youth."
Yeah.
Little
and
did you know.
we tied him up, and he struggled a bit, but it was a losing battle. I was still a pretty big boy then too, as I am today. But we tied him up, and
He's struggling. You guys should have seen the face Keith was making when he said that. Go ahead, Keith. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. 35 minutes of this podcast is us just laughing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. I mean, we always did a little something strange. Each individual camping trip, we did try to initiate somebody. I think Chris only got it one time.
Yeah.
That was,
I can't believe I never did.
well, you were fragile.
The epitome of Nancy's.
Not that much as Nancy. You just,
We don't want to make Brooks angry.
yeah, we don't like it when Brooks is angry. He turns orange. No.
Yeah. It's bad.
But we had a lot of good times. I think we did some good trips together. I think we just did more hanging out at the house. I mean, the hours of Rock Band we played at my house.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
So I found some recordings the other day of it's Wesley and Ryan playing Rock Band. Both of you singing like the Go-Go's.
Oh my gosh! You know what? We need to get that footage and
Yeah.
put it on our YouTube page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I have one of Aaron singing under oath.
Yeah, I also have one of Robbie playing on that drum set. See it, the chattered cymbal right there?
Oh my gosh!
Where he just smashed it.
You know what?
You're trying to do hardcore on Harley's little tiny drum set.
In honor of this episode, we're going to get those and we're going to put them up on our website and our YouTube page
All right.
for
Luckily,
real.
no one has videos of me and Ryan dancing to Beyonce.
Yeah. Oh, so you think?
Oh, I think we do. We have two more people in the room with us, but we're not going to mention them because they may not want to be mentioned. But we didn't mention them by name. By name.
Okay.
By name.
Clarity.
Could be anybody.
But we do have video footage of the dancing.
Oh, jeez. Whoops.
We'll get on top of that.
Yeah, we'll be on top of that. We need to make sure we're sharing this with everybody.
Yep.
Hey, check out the podcast. If you check out the podcast, you can see videos that you'll never see anywhere else. The only video that I believe that I want to have that I can't find goes back to now this dates itself. It goes back to the day Robbie got saved.
It does.
Yeah. When it was my days when I had my little Razor Motorola flip phone.
And they were cool back then.
They were
that's how long ago this was.
That's how long, because they were real cool. I mean,
2005.
Yeah, right? And it was legit, like 2007?
Yeah.
I had my little skater crowd with me, and we were, they didn't, we was out in the field, we was at a concert, and they're deciding to jump over trash cans. Robbie, you want to finish that story?
Yeah, so we're jumping over trash cans doing tricks. So like we'll do like a 360, 180s, and like Max was doing some like random stuff. And I was like, guys, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a foot plant on the trash can, because it's a trash can lid with like a little tiny hole cut in the center of it. I was like, all I gotta do is just touch the side of it and just foot plant. and so
I'm recording this.
He's recording this. I run up, go up, and I go to put my foot on the side, and I miss the complete side. I hit the right dead center in the middle. So foot just goes straight inside trash can, and then just like falls over, right?
Rough.
And then there's just like a bunch of old guys like walking around, like senior pastors and other youth pastors, and they just see like this 16-year-old skater kid with long hair fall down, trash is everywhere, and then his youth pastor's just recording them laughing.
Oh, I was so disciplined. Oh my gosh! If anybody that actually knows us, like from our past, listening to this, they're like, "Man, we should have fired that dude a long time ago." What was he doing the whole time? Causing havoc.
I remember. I also have footage of you wrestling Ryan in the backyard.
We need to get that footage up.
That's good.
5 dudes on that trampoline.
No. It was over at Taos.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, where you had the stripe in your hair.
Whoa, I think I was there for a while. Man.
But yeah, you had that, and then there's another video.
Yeah.
Still have video of the trampoline where there's like 10 people. On
Yeah,
the
that's
trampoline.
Now that's the one we need to find, because that was a good day.
Yeah.
Me and Paul versus 10 kids.
Yeah. Well, it started because I think I wanted a piece of Paul, and Robbie was messing with my dad, and I was just like, I've got to have a piece of it. I've got to.
And then Ryan ended up at the worst because I had him in a leg lock and Paul had him in a choke.
Wow. Needless to say, I was the color purple.
And then Chris,
Oh my gosh.
got destroyed by someone.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
He's not able to have kids anymore.
Yeah, he got ripped apart.
Rough. The clap game.
Yeah, so it's it's let's just say I wasn't the most intelligent youth pastor. But man, we had some fun, and man, we did some cool stuff, and I tell you what we did do, and I'll say this, I don't think that, and we're going to talk about church and how things are done. Man, I was really stoked to see a lot of kids come to know Jesus. I mean, because that's what I'm about. I'm about kids not just knowing Jesus, but trying to live it. And man, I saw a lot of things happen with kids and coming through the youth ministry to grab a hold, and I love that. And I just thought, man, if we could just be real and be honest with ourselves, not try to fake it. And that's what I tried to do. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, there were some things I had to fake because I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was the guy who came through church, said, "Hey, you want to help volunteer in the youth ministry?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'd love to do that. Let's go. We're gonna go on a bowling. Hey, do you want to help with this lock-in?" Yeah. And then when the lock-in comes around, "Oh, you're going to be the only person here. Can you plan it and do everything else?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And it started there, and then they're like, "Oh, the youth directors here are stepping down. We want to know if you want to step in and just take over the youth ministry program." I knew about, and I'm holding my fingers a half an inch apart, that much about like really ministry at that moment.
Yeah.
You know, and it was interesting for me to do that. And of course, I come in and some kids are there with me, and from that point, I just kind of felt like, okay, God, this is what you want me to do. This is how I feel as who I am as a Christian. So that's what we're going to do. And I didn't know what I was doing. And then, of course, I'm learning from other people, from pastors and other deacons and stuff. And this is how you should be in church. And this is how you should act. And this is what you should wear. And this is what you should say. And then, of course, by the time I realized I needed to resign from ministry was the fact that I realized I wasn't doing it the way God really wanted me to. And I was missing something. And that's where we're at today. We're somewhere different. Now, everybody has their own, I guess, philosophy of ministry. But I just wasn't down for that anymore. And I'm like, I can be in more relationships outside of this box than I can inside the box. And that's where it started. So even if you only have like 5 friends and that's how your relationships are built and that's what you're into, you don't need to go and find 100 different people and throw like a 5-minute segment of here's my tract and here's Jesus and that's it and walk away. That doesn't really do a whole lot of good. So we just wanted to change how we do things. And I wanted to change how it. And even when we were doing youth ministry, I don't know if y'all really agree, but I really wanted to spend time with people. Mm-hmm. The funny thing was I realized that the bigger youth groups got, the less I could spend time with everybody. And it was hard. And, of course, people were like, oh, that's your favorite. And, oh, you like that person more. I'm like, well, not really. They just around me more. You know, it's like Justin would come over to the house and stay till 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, it was fine. You know, Jeff and Dondi would literally like, hey, can we just stay over? And I'm like, that's weird, but okay. Call your mom, tell her you just stand at the house, and they sleep on the couch. We play skate till like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to bed, okay. And they fall asleep on the couch. And, of course, my couches would smell like feet and sweat and everything else because I always had guys, you know, sleeping over at the house. And I didn't think anything about it. You know, it wasn't strange, I guess. It was just, you know, we was building relationships. I saw all the younger guys coming through youth ministry as, you know, not as much as like friends, but, you know, guys I was trying to mentor and be around, and it was cool, you know. And, of course, I could stay a kid doing that. I didn't have to grow up and be an adult. I mean, y'all know. Yeah, and just to add in there, it wasn't weird because we did have a German exchange student, and, you know, Donnie would stay over because they were best friends. And, of course, we had other kids in our house that lived with us as our kids, but we also had like adopted type kids that were in the house, and they were over. And like Graham said in the break that nobody heard, I don't even know if we should say it again.
I'm gonna keep this staring.
I think that Justin edited it out.
No, look, Justin's over there staring at me like, don't do it. Don't do it. That's why I had Justin on the show, to calm me down. Rein me in. Now, if it was me and Graham on a podcast together, oh my gosh, we'd have to label it explicit without even cussing.
Call everybody on their crap.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, you know, it's like we're sitting here and, you know, everybody's got their viewpoint of, you know, what church is, what church should look like, you know, if you're going to church. And, you know, some people are sitting here like, well, you know what? I think the church sucks, you know, because of how I've been treated. And honestly, you know, I could probably say the same thing at times. I mean, there's been times that, you know, I don't know who listens to the podcast, and honestly, I really don't care, you know, because, I mean, I do care that people listen to podcasts. But if you listen, you know, if they listen to podcasts just to hear or to hate on or stuff, and I know there's a lot of people, you know, I could take other podcasts, for example, like Bad Christian, you know, people listen to Bad Christian podcasts just to hate on them, just to, you know, see what they're doing wrong. And okay, but, you know, it's like I've had people tell me, and like in church buildings, people that are supposed to be, you know, brothers and sisters, I'm like, hey, you know, if you cut your hair and do this and change your clothes, we'll give you more money. And I'm like, that's just the most insane things I've ever heard. Yeah. You know, I'm sure we can get into some stories about how we've been hurt by the church and things like that. And I don't know, Justin, you tell me, do you think that's beneficial for the people inside the walls to hear how other people have been hurt by them? Or do you think that's just becoming a moot point now?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you approach it. I think there needs to be a certain amount of awareness that people in the church, like, yes, my actions and what I do is like reflects, you know, this church and reflects what people think of Christ.
Right.
Because that's what Christians are called to be, you know, followers of Christ and reflect Christ. So when, you know, someone is mistreated by a Christian, they relate that, especially in the context of a church building itself, like in a church, that does really hard damage to what the message that Christians are trying to get across. However, on the other hand, it's not. I don't want it to be just like, oh yeah, Christians are doing this, and this wrong, and that there's nothing good or nothing right about what the church is doing. So,
Right.
Yeah,
I want to bash it, but you want to raise awareness without bashing the
exactly.
church. Yeah.
Well, I think it goes both ways. I don't want us to look outside the walls that like a group like, and I know we always just throw it out at the atheists, but any group outside of Christianity, you don't want to go out there, saying, you've done these things that hurt us or this, that, or the other. But we don't want to bash them. We just, like, Brooks said, we just want to raise a certain amount of awareness to show that, the point is that we all sit here as human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as much as we know for sure, for 100% fact, we know that we're all humans. We're born and we die. That's all we can be assured of, because that's what we know, that's what we feel, that's what we can touch and see. When it comes to our faith, that's what it is our faith. We have true conviction in our beliefs, but I think people take their beliefs to be, they're so convicted about their beliefs, they really hurt a lot of people because of it, because they don't know how to deal. And I think, and I'll throw this out there, y'all tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Do you think that because people have doubts, or they're unsure, they don't have that tangible thing they can reach a hold of, sometimes that fear of doubt kind of boils into this defense mechanism, this ability that they lash out at others, because what if they don't want to face the fact that they could be wrong, or that something may be wrong in their beliefs, and that sometimes becomes the kindling for the fire.
Right, absolutely, because I think that, I guess if you have something to say,
you go ahead. No.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said, that when someone in the church doubts, because I was that kid back when I was like 13. I was the kid who always doubted and was like, what if this is wrong? What if the other, there's so many other systems out there and all that. And it was seen, I think the way that my doubt was perceived by others was it made other people come to grips with, wow, these things are real. These doubts are legitimate in a way, and that scares the crap out of me. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I'm going to raise these walls and raise these defense mechanisms in order to not confront my own fears and my own anxieties about this, and attack you and lessen your what you're going through in order to make myself more reassured of what I believe and not actually confront the real problem.
Right.
So.
Well, it just makes me think, because like Keith has always, you've actually been in literally one church. You've visited other places and you've been part of other youth ministries because you were with us for a while, done other things, but you've been literally a part of one church basically your whole life, haven't you?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that's
24 years now.
Yeah. So you've 24 years in one church. How does that look from your point of view, being there, being kind of in one mindset? Have you seen that kind of play out inside that place where you've been?
Not a whole lot. To an extent, it happens everywhere. My experiences, and this isn't just with the church that I'm a part of. This is also my experience from some other places too, visiting and things like that, and some other people I know. But my experience is that does happen, but usually when a Christian feels the need to bash other people, when they need to feel the need to harp on particularly non-believers' sins, it's usually because they have a poor understanding of the scriptures.
Okay, yeah.
Usually they will take verses way out of context and think that means that they need to take this one group of people and basically hate them.
Right.
But they take that so out of context with the rest of Scripture that really they're not acting as Christians.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
As being, it's usually just, I think both ways. Like when it comes to doubt, like somebody doubt and then they fear and then they lash out because of that, or they're lashing out because I think it all comes back to a lack of, not really knowledge, but just a full set of wisdom and understanding. Because it's more wisdom than knowledge. You can I know plenty of people who have plenty of knowledge, but they don't have that wisdom with the experience plus knowledge. Right. So it changes how they deal with people. It's just like me and Brooks. It's the fact that people go, I have gauges. Brooks doesn't have them anymore.
Nope, used to.
I have
Used
them.
to.
And I'm probably
Yeah.
going to get them again
Yeah.
here soon.
So I mean, and then we were told, what was the line? You're going to hell, or you're not a
Yeah.
real Christian, or something, because you have that in your ear. And I'm like, okay, why? What drives a person to say that? Like, what motivates a person to say something of that nature? Because that's not like, that's literally saying everything that you think you are is a lie because you have holes in your ear. Mm-hmm. Is it because I'm a man? Is it because the holes are bigger than your earrings are? Because, like, I know a lot of people go, I remember the first time I just had regular earrings in.
Yeah.
Normal hoops. It was a long time ago. I was in one church, and a man in the church came up and said, going to hell because you got earrings in. I'm like, is your wife going to hell too? Mm-hmm. And that was my comment, because I'm thinking, nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about men not having earrings or women not having earrings. And if your whole basis is because we're not supposed to, your body's the temple or this, that, or the other. So what do you think about women? Is it just because it's a culturally, well, it wasn't at that time. I mean, we're in the 2000s now. Come on. It's not culturally, unacceptable for men to have earrings in. And it was just, that was my thing. I mean, that was such it was such a negative and harsh thing to say. I mean, I didn't take it harsh or negative. I just took it as, ignorance.
Yeah, that was a big problem we had. It was a lot of people taking their personal thoughts or beliefs or dislike of something and then trying to put the scripture over it.
Yeah.
And
it's tough anywhere you go. And it's not just one place. I mean, everybody has it. And it doesn't matter what denomination you're in either.
It's this thought of, you got to look like me or you're not doing it right kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that goes beyond even the walls that we're talking about in Christianity and some other groups. I think that covers all of humanity.
That's a cultural
it does.
thing.
Like racism. That's the root of racism. Is you're different than me, so I don't like you.
Right. And no, it is. And like I said, like we were talking about before we got started, it's not the fact that it's not happening on both sides of the wall. It's not like it doesn't happen outside the walls with everybody else who's not who doesn't label themselves as a Christian. Right. It does, but we can't speak to those people. I mean, we could speak to them, but it doesn't really make a difference because we're not really trying. I mean, we're not trying to change them through what we're saying. We're not trying to say, hey, you got to be different to reach us. We inside the walls need to be different and see things differently so we can reach them and build relationships with them and show them that we're not so hateful and we're not bigots and these things. But when we do those things inside the walls, when those things happen, it takes a turn, and they'll go, well, these Christians who are supposed to love everybody really don't love everybody, and that's a big problem that we have. And I don't know about everybody, but I know, at least from my point of view, that I've seen enough hatefulness. And let me be very honest. I was one person at a time who could be hateful to those people. And it wasn't that I was just I just wanted to go out and bash them. I just wanted to prove that they were wrong and I was right. Yeah. I mean, I was that person too. Yeah. I mean, hey, be honest. Mm. I mean, at some point, we all do that in one way or another. We think we're more superior than the next person.
Definitely. Yep.
And I think that's what Jesus did so differently too, though. He was, in our belief as Christians, he was and is the most superior thing that has ever walked this planet. But he never put on that facade. He never became that in front of people. Well, 3 people got to see his superiority in his full glory. But that was it. Outside of Peter, James, and John, that was it. On the mountain. Yep. And outside of that, he was just like every other man, lower than every other man, was serving every other man. He did things that nobody else wanted to do. And that's not what Christianity promotes anymore. Well, I don't want to say that in general. I just say that what we see, what the media will show, and what sometimes we see outside the walls is not Jesus sometimes. I believe there are people doing it, but I believe until more people are acting like what Jesus really acted like, we're still going to have these issues. We'll still have the pushback.
Yeah, I feel like some of the, like when people look at gauges or the way you dress and things like that, it has a lot to do with the fact that they couldn't do it either. It's like a jealousy side kind of thing.
That's a good point.
I don't know. I've been on that side.
Yeah.
I've been like, man, I couldn't do that, so let me harp on you about it because that's not right. And maybe not necessarily in the church, but and I could see I've had it done to me.
Yeah.
And known kind of thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The fact that maybe they want to do it, but they can't do it because of the way people look at them or something. They don't want to be in the shoes that they're harping at.
Yeah.
They don't want to be the person on the other side that they're bashing against. So they just take that automatic defense stance and go after them, or offensive stance and go after them. You know, that's an interesting point. I didn't think about it like that either. That's but it's still, I
never really had the desire to put an earring in. But I remember one time Dad said, like, if I catch you an earring in your ear, I'll take out the pocket knife and take the whole load.
That's
Wasn't really sure if he'd actually do it or not. Like I said, it wasn't really a point of contention.
Let it be on the record, Graham does not have earrings.
Yeah, Graham does not, because we can see his earlobes. Yeah, we can see his, and that's thinking about that, it's like, man, you never know really what your dad's going to do to you when he says he's going to do something. So yeah, it's.
I mean, I knew.
Yeah.
Say I knew too.
I'll beat you if you touch my belly. Well, I'm going to touch your belly.
And I beat him.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really beat him. I just choked him out until he was purple, and then my wife says, please let him go. No, he's got to tap out. He has to tap out.
A lot of UFC moves. Quite a few of those.
But yeah, it's one of those things where, you're looking at the church to be the love and the compassion and the mercy and grace, and that's what I want from it, and that's what. And let me be very frank about this too, even though my name's Keith. We're going to be frank about it. But there you go. We got the drum set. Did you want to hit it up?
I thought about it.
Yeah, I know. But when I started in church and ministry, everybody was giving me the pointers, the advice, and this is how you do it, and this is how you're supposed to act, and this is how you should interact with other people. And it was always, it always seemed negative and very, it didn't seem very loving. And when you're fresh in Christianity and you're being mentored one way, you don't think that it's wrong or that it could be different or it's not totally, that it's totally right. The beers have got me burping. Yes, we're Christians and we drink beer. It's okay, people.
Amen.
But it's, and I think that's the point where I'm like, Christians, okay, read your Bible for yourself. Don't take man's word for what it means or what it says. Let God open those things up to you. And I guess since we're in the room of people who basically know Christianity, we'll see the same benefit of doing that. I mean, I believe men should teach you at some point. There's things you can learn from men. Like, listen to Timothy Keller. I mean, dude is wise beyond wise.
On point.
Yeah, and it was so cool Tuesday night to see it. Kim's like never seen him before, and she was telling me, she's like, wow, he was able to, a good speaker and this, that, and the other. I was like, yeah, Timothy Keller's on point, like Justin said. But you can learn from men like that who are really connected to the Holy Spirit and really are teaching. But sometimes you can be led down the wrong path. So, and it's not, and I don't think sometimes it's intentional either. I think it's just something that's been taught year after year after year, and it just becomes so traditional, so automatic. That's just how you do until you break out of that and look at the scripture for yourself and go, something's not right here. I shouldn't be looking at people going, you got a hole in your ear, you're going to hell. There should be a point in your life where you realize that doesn't work. We could get into teachings, but, and I'm getting ready to put Brooks on the spot because this is my favorite thing. Putting Brooks on the spot.
My big moment.
But, yeah, it really is, and let's see how this works out. But something that I thought was funny because, and I'll preface it by, I used to listen to a Christian guy. A guy I knew in church, and we'd leave and maybe go eat dinner after, and he's like, look at him at his house, not going to church, mowing his grass, right? He should be in church, right? But you're at the restaurant and somebody's serving you food. What do you think about them? Should they be in church? But if they were at church and not working on Sunday, like, you're not supposed to work on Sunday, then you wouldn't be eating in this restaurant. Speaking of eating in a restaurant on Sunday, Brooks works at an establishment.
Thank you.
And
Pretty decent one.
Brooks works at an establishment, and on Sundays, church people come in and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, Brooks, just so we can understand, like, people in in restaurants on Sundays, no matter where it is or what restaurant it is, it's not always all Christian people on Sundays. And there's a mix of people. I'm pretty sure of it.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, it's a good mix. So when you see people, because you can tell most of the Christian crowd, especially in a small town, they're usually in really nice clothes.
Dressed up.
And a lot of them I know.
Yeah, especially. And except for me, I'm not dressed up.
They come in packs.
Yeah, they come in packs, and they all come in at one time.
About 12:45.
Yeah, and you know which church lets out. If it's one of them highly charismatic church, they're about 2:00.
Yep.
Yep.
All your real gospel get on it churches about 3:00, and all your Baptist churches 12:30.
Yep. Bro, the Methodists are in there at 11:30.
Oh yeah. They don't.
That is true. We do get some earlier.
Yeah, but so they all come in, and Brooks has told me stories about some of his Christians patrons,
And I will repeat them if need be.
and I want him just to share a story of and the reason I'm saying this is okay, so I want to talk about this other word called stumbling in a second too, just because I want to throw it out there and see what everybody thinks, because I think it's a really good item too. But in this sense right now, okay, so you got a restaurant full of people, and it's a mix of people, Christians and non-Christians. Some may be atheists, some may be Mormons, some may be Jehovah's Witness, some may be Muslims, some may be just nothing, whatever. And everybody's watching everybody. So Brooks is going to tell us at least one instance of something that's happened, and I want y'all to think about sitting in that restaurant seeing this happen.
All right.
Okay. So I went to, like he talked about, I've gone there for years and years and years because I had family that went there, and I ended up knowing a lot of people that were there. And now that I work at this establishment, I still see them come in and eat, and they always get on me for not being at church because I'm working, because I have to pay bills. But in particular, there's one. It was older woman, and 3 other people were with her. And this is a family that I've been pretty close with. My aforementioned aunt is very close with them, and she was exceptionally rude to me.
What do you mean exceptionally rude?
Well, I was waiting on them, and she told me I was going too slow, that I wasn't keeping her tea filled up, that I should really go to church more.
You gotta keep that sweet tea.
I know, man. It's bad. I know, it's so bad.
Church and sweet tea, baby.
Yeah. And let's see what else. Yeah, the ear thing. I don't have plugs in my ears anymore, but you can still very much see the hole. And she would tell me, you're going to hell, blah blah blah. Never once asked me how I was doing, what was going on in my life, how's my faith going. None of that stuff. Whoa. It was fairly negative.
Well, obviously she thought your faith was dead.
Yeah.
And it needed to be resurrected.
Yeah. And by hitting me over the head with it. But yeah, she and her family was kind of rude too, but particularly this elderly woman. And she didn't tip me. She wrote like I said, she ran me to death. They had like a $60 bill, and didn't tip me. None of them did. And she wrote on the bottom, would have tipped, but God is the best tip of all, John 3:16.
Oh no.
Which
God, I'm so sorry.
And then she even took the time. If you've been to a restaurant and they give you the receipt, there's a part where it says tip, and you can write down the number. It's one thing to leave that space blank. It's another thing to put 0.00.
Yeah, you had to go through the effort.
Yeah, that's particularly
like an extra middle finger.
Yeah, particularly venomous. But and there are other stories of people that it'd be one thing if these people were just strangers that went to a church.
Right,
but these are people that I've known for years. These are people I'm related to. Some of them.
I can totally
yeah,
relate
and
to that.
It's rough. It's hard.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see that, right, and you're thinking, and maybe not the patrons that are in the restaurant because they may not be paying attention. But what if you're like an employee that works with Brooks?
I mean, I don't know. I've seen it happen. I've been sitting down and watched someone, go ape on a waiter. waitress, and it just makes me want to tip them so much more. Or, and it just...
God bless you, son.
Yeah. Well, it just makes you, I don't know, feel bad.
And
I've never worked.
Not just how it affects other employees, but how it affects, you don't know. I mean, I'm someone, and Keith told us before the podcast to be very honest about everything.
No,
and I'll absolutely be honest. I struggle with my faith a lot, especially here recently. I don't know if we'll get into that stuff on the podcast, but
we'll save it for the next podcast.
That's fair enough. But I've had a lot of stuff going on that's really made me question a lot of things, and I've always had that problem.
And it doesn't help when somebody's doing that.
Yeah, and it really doesn't help when someone that daily, every minute struggles with their faith.
Yeah.
It occupies my mind a lot to have someone that is a patron, a representative of the church that you grew up in. Yeah. Even, say the pastor of that church were particularly rude to you. That really, it paints a bad picture. And
I want to add to that I understand everybody has bad days. I get that, and I get that, but you got to realize that you've done something, and I try to at times be very apologetic for people, to people about what I've done. I miss it, and I think people that do that and have no issues about it. I'm not questioning your faith. I want to question theirs.
Yeah.
That really breaks my heart to hear it, because I'll tell you this. I remember Brooks told me this story and other stories. There's many.
Several.
And that's the worst thing about it. There's many stories. I can understand if it's one here or there. I get that. But there are many stories.
And it's weekly, and it's the same people. And if I were brazen enough, I would say, when they ask me, why haven't you come to church? I'd be like, you're the reason. You're the reason I haven't come back.
I would so tell them.
If I didn't think I'd get in trouble, because they seem like the type of spiteful people that would do that.
No, I get it.
I absolutely would.
Go ahead and line yourself up another job.
Yeah.
So when you do that, you can at least. Yeah. And I don't know if that's just rude and not very loving. But, at some point you got to say, you got to be honest with other people and say, the reason things are the way they are is because the way you treat me.
Truth is the truth.
And it's horrible to see that happen. I mean, you think about it. What if it was you?
Yeah.
I mean, how would you deal with your faith when you see other Christians treating another person who is a Christian that way? Well, let's put it like this. I know everybody here. I know everybody struggles with their own sin and their own faith and how they're dealing with it, but I've seen everybody commit to Jesus. I didn't see Graham or Keith actually commit to Jesus, but I've seen them in let's just say action, and I can trust that their faith is real. So, and everybody else, I've actually seen them do the commitment, so which is cool for me. But it's the funny thing is that we shouldn't have to, we as Christians, I mean, I understand people on outside the walls, but we're talking about inside the walls.
Yeah.
And if it's going on inside the walls, you can guarantee it's going on outside. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that blows my mind in of itself. We used to go to New Spring, and I remember the right before the Easter service was coming up. And everybody has their own thoughts and opinions on Perry Noble and stuff, and he's good sometimes. And you know what? And that's fine. If you don't believe theologically, he does, fine, whatever. But the dude has some really good. The dude tries to love. I'm not going to doubt him for that. Yeah. And he teaches, and this is the one thing he teaches. He's like, dude, go out to the restaurant, and you should be the biggest tipper in that restaurant. You should lay down more money on that table than anybody else in that restaurant, because you're a Christian, because you're showing them love, because you got to understand they're serving you. They're taking time. They may be Christians, not able to go to church because they're there serving you, that they're serving you. And hey, if you want to invite them to church, do it. You want to leave a tract, do it. But if you don't leave some dollars on that thing, none of that matters, because they're going to look at you as cheap, hateful idiots.
Amen.
And that's one thing he was
Lord's with us tonight.
But that was one thing that I thought that was interesting, that this man would teach that because he was trying to teach you that's an attitude of love, that's an attitude of servitude. He was like, hey, when you're out there, treat those people like people, treat them like yourself, and that's what we want to do. We want to teach people that you should be treating other people like yourself. I mean, if you want to treat that person like that, then you must obviously hate yourself. But we know we know people have struggled with insecurities. They struggle with depression. They struggle with self-hatred and things like that. But deep down in yourself, not how you treat yourself, but how would you really want to be treated? How would you want people to treat you? It's not about how you treat yourself or how others treat you, but how would you want to be treated? That's what you got to do in return. He didn't say, well, treat others like you're being treated. He's like, love others like, you want people to love you, like you want to be treated. That's the goal. And if I'm hearing stories like that from Brooks, and this is the thing, if people that are related to you and are Christians are treating you like that, and people outside the walls see that or notice that or hear that, how are they supposed to look on us? How are they supposed to look on Christians? I mean, do you blame? Let me ask you a question, guys.
Yep.
Do you blame people for seeing Christians the way they see them today?
No,
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't blame them a bit.
It's a shame. But no, I don't blame them.
But yet we have conservative Christianity in America saying, oh, we're getting treated so badly. They're always against us. The government's against us. These are against us. They're against us. Yeah, I agree there are people against you, but you're not doing yourself any justice. Right. Just because you want to stop gay marriage and you're going to pass the law and that's going to make Christianity so much better in America, no.
How'd that work out during Prohibition?
Yeah. What, more violence, more crime during the Prohibition era because they wanted to get rid of alcohol?
Didn't get rid of alcohol, it just made alcoholics criminals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I agree there's some things that the law needs to state, to be deterrents. But we shouldn't go after people just because they're different than you. And no, I don't. And yes, I can be on record and say that homosexuality to me in the Bible is a sin. But so is heterosexual acts outside of marriage. So is lying. So is murder. So is rape. So is all these other things in the Bible that maybe Christians believe. But I don't care about your sin. Honestly, your sin is between you and God or you and whoever or whatever belief system you have. I need to care about you as a person.
Right.
That's what I need to learn how to do. And yes, I still get it wrong. Me and Justin both said we get it wrong. We've said it many times on the podcast. We get it wrong. But if I can learn how to do that, then I think things may be changing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see, there was I've been reading a book, Vanishing Grace. Justin's been reading, and there was on the podcast. I don't know which podcast. It was a couple weeks ago, I think. Okay. And I mentioned about a pastor in North Carolina. I don't know where the pastor in North Carolina is. Yeah. You know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And he made this statement, and I'll throw this out there, and I'll give me your input, please. He made this statement that what we should do is take all the lesbians and queers, round them up, put them in a big concentration camp, put a fence around them, right, and airdrop food in them, because they'll eventually die out because they don't reproduce. Now, that was the statement that was...
Go ahead, Craig. Yeah. My thing is, all right, so far, great, you eliminated one sin, Pastor. Or, whatever. But, I mean, people just harp on what they're not doing.
Right.
Or they're hitting on...
Yeah, and it's treating people as their sin. Like, it's identifying you are your sin.
Yeah.
Let's think the lesbians and the gays.
Yeah.
Not those people who, have
Happen
acts
to
of
be,
have acts of homosexuality.
I think that's actually happened before, except they just changed the lesbian term to Jews.
Yeah.
Well, no, they did it, and it's been done throughout the centuries of things like that. But my thing is that this is the 21st century, okay? And this is a pastor of a church, which I know, don't get me wrong, and I'll go on record saying if anybody wants to drive me, I don't think he's a Christian. Anybody who's got that kind of hate in their heart for human beings, Jesus is going to say, "Depart from me, I never knew you," and come and get at me if you will. But that thing that hurt my heart when I read it, and I know he was making the point from showing how we should be extending grace and not looking at, and like Justin saying, identifying people as their sin. Right. Because if that's the truth, then we need to go into every church, look at every pastor and go, hey, you pride person, hey, you narcissist, because that's what most pastors are. They're narcissists. They want everything to be about them. They do things the way they want to. It's not about a team mentality and a group. I'm the pastor. I do it my way. I'm a narcissist. I'm a prideful person. They don't admit to those things. So why don't we just go around calling you narcissists instead of Pastor or Bill or Ted or anything?
Roar.
I think that one might get edited.
But yeah, that brings up a point of like talking about pastors being narcissists. It's amazing how many pastors I've seen that just do not know what's going on inside their church.
No, I agree. And you know and I'll just throw this out there. I'm so aware of that when I was a youth pastor, I didn't know what was going on in my own youth ministry at times.
Yeah.
Because you're so consumed with being busy, so consumed with doing the church, the ministry things that you miss the point of seeing people. I know I had kids, and this is the funny thing. I know I had kids on trips drinking, doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing. I know I had kids drunk. I just was so busy trying to keep everything together. As long as they weren't acting out or doing something, I didn't focus on that.
Contained.
Yeah. Everything was fine.
That's the really cool part about being so real, though. Like, you know, with you being a youth pastor and you doing your thing and not listening to any or what everybody else had to say, because you were so real, you built those relationships over time, and you know, you knew what was happening. You were shepherding that flock that you had.
Yeah, and people are like, well, what'd you do? And I'm like, I found a way to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I always didn't. I mean, I know I had some girls on a trip who had bottles they filled with like sun-dropping vodka. Mm-hmm. I found out later. I didn't find out at that moment, but I found out later, and I'm like, that was pretty slick. Mm-hmm. Don't ever do it again. Yeah. And it's, hey, yes, I don't believe alcohol is a sin, but underage, it's wrong in our country.
Well, and if they're filling bottles with sun-dropping vodka, they're not doing it just to enjoy the drink.
No.
They're doing it to get hammered.
Yeah, you're exactly right, especially at 16.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's like I don't hate them for it. I don't even. You know what? I don't even make. I don't. We may talk about it. It has been mentioned. And I'm like, oh, interesting. But it came down to the point. It's like, but man, whatever, dude. And people go, well, what's wrong with you? Were you really a youth pastor? Yeah, I got hired on. The title said so. I mean, in every sense of the word, I was what I was. I did the job, and that was the problem. It became such a point to do the job. That's what I was saying. And yeah, I try to build relationships, but dude, I'm telling you, these 6 guys that are sitting in front of me, and everybody else who's listening, I sucked at it. I failed miserably. There are guys today who hate and do not believe in God and hate Christianity, and I believe it's my fault. Even though it may not be my fault, I take it as my fault. I believe there's guys out there today and girls who want nothing to do with the church, and I believe I have a lot to do with that because I was ignorant and I was hateful, and I didn't pay attention the way I needed to pay attention because I was being busy doing the work of a congregation or institution, and I didn't focus in on those relationships the way I needed to because we had to make sure the numbers were right. We had to make sure everything was in point. We had to make sure, you did this, you did that, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and we missed what was really going on in people's lives. Right. Yeah. And that sucked, especially when a parent comes and goes, why haven't you come see my kid? He hasn't been in church in 3 weeks. And you go, man, I knew he wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I've just been so busy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that sucked.
There's another thing of just with being a senior pastor or a youth pastor or any pastor position, people look at you and you have to be a politician in the sense that you have to go to committee meetings and you have to sell what you're believing in. You have to sell your ministry. You have to sell what your vision is to somebody. You have to be a CEO in the aspect of you have to manage your budgets. You have to manage all this time and all these things. And on top of that, you also have to be the perfect person because people can't be seeing the youth pastor or the senior pastor out doing something.
No, absolutely.
I saw a senior pastor out at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to a point is on them because if they actually taught their congregations the rights and wrongs scripturally, some of this could go away.
Well, and I'll say from experience, it's tough because I've been in that. I mean, I decided that this is, even after I resigned, I was looking for another place. I realized to a point, there's no point in this any longer. But it's also something that congregationally that is built in pastors too. We can teach them, but there's so much riding on. I mean, you got to think about it. It for most guys, it's their job, it's their living. I mean, they're being paid to do this, and I was. Even though a lot of people go, "What do you do?" But you get in that mentality and you forget, okay, it is about God. It's about God's call for you. But you get into a place where it's like, but if I don't do what they need me to, if I don't almost conform to what they need me to do and be this person and don't do that and don't be seen here and do this and do that, you're going to lose your job.
Your job's on the line.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, some of the pastors around here, when you're talking $100,000+ packages,
oh yeah, it's incentive.
You start thinking long and hard about what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that becomes an issue too. I'm not gonna lie to you. Having a nice little package. I mean, I was a youth pastor. I didn't. It was a decent amount of money. I'm not complaining, but it wasn't overly crazy either. It was decent. It kept us afloat.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask, do you think there's ever a time where like pay or losing your job or something like that came into?
Oh, absolutely. For 6, and I'll tell you guys this: the day I renounced my resignation, I had felt that way for almost 7 months, but I avoided it. I avoided it because I'm like, but this is my job. I can make it work. I don't, God, we can build this ministry the way we can do the things you want me to do inside here. And when I started trying to do different things and change things, it still wasn't working. And it was because, and this is no fault to the place I was at or myself. There was different visions that had to be done differently. And I told people when they asked me, why'd you leave? I was like, because God was taking me in a different direction. And if they didn't understand it, I was like, and the main thing is I didn't want to hinder their mission, because as much as I feel that I could have been hindered, I could have hindered them just as much by staying there. And it could have hurt what they were doing, because maybe they grow bigger. Maybe they'll bring more kids in. Maybe they'll do something different that changes the whole dynamic of what they're doing. And if that happens, it wouldn't have happened with me. So I had to remove myself from that as well. I had to be the one to see that. And that's the only way I could really come to that place. So yeah, at times, money. Look, if any human being says it's not about money, they're absolute lying. They're full of crap. Because look, people get jobs because of money. We have to pay bills. We have to do things. And you can go to any church. You can go to any big church in this town, big church. We're talking more than 3, and in our town, more than 300 people in a church. And there's some money there.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're there not always for the right things. Maybe to be seen. Maybe to, give their little bit of money so they can be right with God or whatever it is. Or maybe they're there for the right reasons. But everybody has this desire to have things and have money and to, do that. So yeah, if anybody says, a pastor shouldn't worry about money, do you have to feed your kids? Do you have to provide for your kids? It's tough sometimes. So a pastor who makes $100,000+ a year, hey, more power to you, bro. Because everybody else out there is trying to make a buck. Why can't you? But the problem is like, and Ryan pointed the question, should it be about money? Should that be the driving force that keeps you in a place? And I think, we were talking about pastors. They do get put on a pedestal. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before. Pastors are people too. We need to treat them like people. And this goes for people outside the walls. If you listen and you're outside the wall of the church, you have to understand, even though maybe even Christians in and of themselves, none of us are perfect people. We're just like everybody else. And when people place standards on people trying to be perfect, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And if a person's out there making their appearance to be perfect, just go ahead and know that they're not perfect, because they're not trying to hide it on purpose. It's just hard. It's hard to be open and honest. It's hard to be vulnerable in the public's eye.
Right.
Like poor Bad Christian, not poor Bad Christian. I'm sorry. Poor Russell Wilson from Bad Christian. But they made a very, very valid point. They may have went about it different than I would have, but they say, hey, you're out there talking about, oh, God gets all the glory, this, that, and the other. Then you're like, I'm divorcing my wife. That's hard, because you promote an image, and then when you do something like this, that's why moral failures of pastors are so publicized.
Yep.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And my thing is, did you do anything differently? Like as a human being, not being a pastor, have you done anything differently in your life that you haven't done that you haven't fallen in? And that's the problem inside the church. And I agree, or I make the statement that I would agree with, that we have more pressure from inside the walls as Christians trying to be certain people than we do coming from outside. Because I think people on the outside wall, they really don't care if we're perfect or not. I think it makes more difference to those on the inside the walls.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
It's maintaining this image of perfection, of like, okay, well, if I slip up, then I'm going to somehow fail, or I'm somehow going to, I'm not going to portray the message across clearly. But when it comes across to people on the outside, it's, oh, well, they don't admit that they're wrong, or admit that they have faults or have insecurities of their own. So, because everyone knows that we all have them.
Yeah, and I think I would say, I'm not going to say it's just American culture, American Christian culture, but I think we've come to a place where we have to present an image of having it all together.
Right.
We can't look vulnerable because weakness is bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
But, Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12, boast in your weakness. And I think these are the things I'm talking about. If Christians would literally read, don't read the Bible because I got a reading plan and I got to make sure I read my 4 to 5 to 6. And if you're doing the Bible in 90 days, 10 to 17 chapters a day.
Yeah.
I've got to get that in, but they're not reading the Bible to see what's really there. And you know what? Hey, if you skip the Old Testament for a while, it's okay. Look at the New Testament and what we're supposed to do as a new covenant Christian. And see what Paul said, see what James said, see what Peter said, and especially look at what Jesus was quoted of saying, there's real, honest truth there. And what if we just took that to heart and said, let's live like that? Let's live like Paul, boasting in our weaknesses. We posed this question to, I think it was Jack and Andy were on the show with us a couple episodes ago. And I said, what if we look more like the early church? Not, I know we said first, second century, but
I got you on that.
But we look like the early church when it started. We look like what Paul was describing. We look like what Jesus wanted the church to be.
Yep.
And I'll put this out to everybody here. If we look like that, do you think we would have the pushback from the world? I know we will, because it's prophesied to be persecuted. But would we have the pushback from so many people in our culture and inside our walls? Man, everybody is thinking.
That's a tough question. When you say pushback,
well, about how we're treated, how we're treated hatefully, and and Christians are hateful bigots, and and illiterate and stupid and backwoods, and just the way we're treated in general.
How you deal with that?
No, I'm saying if we were more like. If we look more like Jesus and what Paul described, and we acted like that from that, not like the first, second century church, but literally what Jesus described as being the church, and what Paul talked about, what Peter and James talked about, and those guys in the Bible, when they wrote those books out, if we look more like that, would we have the pushback, the animosity that we get now? And I'm going to say we'll divide it up into two sections. We'll talk about people outside looking in, looking at us like the way they see us today. Okay. And also treating each other the way we treat each other in the church today.
I think in the United States, where we are, I think we would see less pushback from both those parties if we actually acted. Now, of course, there's never going to be a point in time for what we believe that we won't be somewhat persecuted for preaching the gospel.
Oh, no, yeah.
But as far as our actions are concerned, no, I think that people outside the church, they would view us in a much better light. I think people inside the church that do push back against us, against each other, I think they would slowly come to learn more what love is about.
Right.
So I think we would actually see less persecution if we acted like, we're supposed to, basically.
Right.
We lived out the New Covenant Scripture.
Say that again.
If we were living out the New Covenant Scripture as it's laid out, I definitely think there'll be less pushback. Because they see us as being what we claim to be.
Right. And I think it's funny because a lot of the pushback we get, especially from those outside the church, we do to ourselves. It's not because we're preaching the gospel of Christ.
Right.
It's not because they hate Christianity so much. Like a lot of the persecution that the early church got was because they were preaching what people thought at that time was heresy.
Yeah.
It was heresy to their pagan religions, to Judaism at the time. Still Judaism, but we won't get into that. Most of our persecution is because we've done some really stupid stuff.
So would you say it's not really persecution, though?
Right. It's basically repercussions for us being idiots.
Consequences.
Yeah. And
now, again, if we are truly Christians and we believe Scripture, yeah, we're going to say homosexuality is a sin.
Right.
But we're also going to be loving a person who is a homosexual.
Right.
We're not going to be casting them out, putting them in a concentration camp.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeking them out to love them, like Jesus did, let's say, with the woman at the well.
Right,
Now,
exactly.
She was every bit as much of a sinner as we would
It
say
always
homosexuality.
comes back to the woman at the well.
to the one. Yeah, you're exactly right.
He went, he loved her, and he served her.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
But it can't just be the woman, though. I mean, tax collectors, that
Exactly,
they were viewed
yeah.
as like the lowest of the low.
Right, yeah.
Well, and on our podcast, we just always reference the woman at the well
She's
because
probably their most recognizable story.
well, it just because it throws racism and sexism and everything. It just throws everything in one big pot.
And that's also specifically a sexual sin. So, like talking about homosexuality, which the Christian church in America is horrible.
Terrible job at.
Horrible way of handling that.
Yeah.
When you look at what Jesus did with that woman, showed her true love. We are not doing that. And Keith is about to make a racket.
I was moving my microphone because I got this thing. Andy would be so proud of me right now because I'm using his drums as like a microphone stand, or his hardware for his cymbals that doesn't have any cymbals on it. So I jerry rigged this thing because I wanted to be comfortable.
Nice. You wanted to lounge back.
I wanted to lounge. I wanted to be like Joey Svensson on Bad Christian and lounge.
Why are you lounging? Why are you laying down?
Why am I laying down? I'm so
You need
sorry.
a pillow, Keith?
Yes, I need a pillow.
I do notice that he has the most comfortable chair of any of us. But
Yeah.
then again, it is his house. So.
By far, I have all the equipment to work, so I needed something comfortable to sit in. Well,
But I would say that it would actually, if we went looked like the first, second century church, that I think we'd see more persecution from the outside of the church.
And I was thinking about that too.
Just
So
because the gospel in and of itself is just so offensive.
I think so too.
That we would see more pushback from the outside, but I think the inside would just be so much more loving,
So much smoother.
and it would just be so much easier. Like when
I like
someone
that.
from the outside actually got into the inside, then I think they'd see how much different that is, and just the love and feel around them.
Well,
On the same
There
page
could be
with you,
some
Robbie.
really capitalist people calling us communists.
yeah, and you're right.
That's true.
Well, and
Yeah.
I want to say that it's a good point to make. But would our culture be the same today?
Yeah,
Because
and it's hard because and just from the scholarly standpoint, it's like you're trying to put a pre-modern worldview and context and culture into not only filter it through a modern, but a postmodern context, which that screws everything up.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. In today's culture, the way people are if you loved like Christians are supposed to love in our world today, like really love people and really go after people with real love. In our culture today, do you think, and I'm just talking America, I'm not talking about the world, and I'm not talking about outside of like presenting the gospel in of itself, because we know it's offensive. We know we'll see persecution from that. Mm-hmm. And there may be more backlash because I think Christians in of themselves has slid into this very comfortable little niche of just doing what they're doing. And it's not real. I don't think it's real Christianity. I don't even think some days I'm doing real Christianity. But but as far as how the world is in our culture of America, I think that the most of the pushback we get is because we're not seen as loving as we say we are. That's what I was I was getting at. But your point is well taken. I think you're right. I think if Christianity was lived out the way it was supposed to be, we'd have a lot more deaths in the world, especially America. Mm-hmm. It's a very good point. I like that.
I actually know what you're talking about from the philosophy of religion class.
Mm-hmm.
About modern
philosophy of religion. That's all I do. That's what I want to go into, man.
Yeah. My scholarly kid over there.
I do what I can.
Yeah. Philosophy. Let's get rid of it.
No. I'm not even going to comment on that.
No. I just like making Justin a little heated. To get a little emotion out of Justin, you know.
Well, most of my emotion happens through glares, so it's.
I know it's so lost on the podcast.
On the podcast, like it's not audible, but I'm just like staring you down.
Most of the time, I'm talking and Justin's looking at me like, "What are you talking about, you dummy?" So man, we've gotten into a pretty good bit of discussion. You know, talking about. I didn't even think we were going to talk about like pastor roles and stuff. But that was pretty decent because I've totally changed my philosophy on pastors and how I see that whole leadership setup. And we won't get into that. That could be a whole nother podcast one day, literally a whole nother podcast. But I think when we're dealing with culture and we're talking about, if we lived like Jesus and let's just lay it out there. We know as Christians that's just impossible.
Yeah,
right.
We're going to screw it up and get it wrong. But man, I think another side of it is, can we just admit that we're wrong? What if you met somebody on the street, and we'll throw this out there and see how this goes. All right, you're on the street, you're doing whatever you're doing, you run into somebody, you actually strike up a conversation with somebody, and you start talking to them, and then they mention that, okay, well, I'm an atheist, okay? Mm-hmm. And then you mention, well, I'm a Christian. All right. And when you find out they're an atheist, the first thing you do is say, you know what? I just want to start out right now by saying I apologize for anything that's been done to you through my faith and or through people who believe like me, my religion basically. I just want to apologize for them because I know you've had to been hurt by them. I know somebody had to do something to you differently or wrong. Or maybe not only that, when you build a relationship with a person, and I think I'll take that back because I know what Justin's thinking.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking, and let me...
What am I thinking? Okay, well, go ahead, and then you can...
Well, let's just strike that from the record, because I don't think every atheist has been hurt by the church or hurt by somebody. I'll agree with that. But that you striked up the conversation, you build a relationship, and you found out something's going on with them between Christianity and religion, and you just apologize for it. And you open up with an apology. Do you think that has any weight with people? Like, I mean, with sincerity, not some BS thing.
Right.
Well, I've seen it go with sincerity. I used to work in UPS, and I worked with a guy in a trailer, and he was a full-blown atheist, crazy smart. And when you're not like 120-degree trailer with somebody, you start to learn who they are. And so, he would tell me stories of how he started out in church and youth group and stuff like that, and he would say
always
stuff.
Starts with youth group.
Always.
Yeah.
And he would say things, and I would go, I've done that to people, or I've seen that done, and I was like, man, I'm really sorry. Yeah. I hate that happened to you. And through saying that, I could see in his face. Granted, it was really hot and dark in there. Our relationship.
This is just going in a whole different direction.
Being an atheist, hot. No, hot and dark. No, but no, like through our relationship outside of work and stuff like that, it was different. He was a little bit more open,
right,
and probably a little bit more open to some of the things I said too.
And you got to know that I say things without thinking anyway, so that's why we went down that path the way we did at first. But I think there's a lot of people. I think there are a lot of people out there who have been hurt.
Right, absolutely. But I do totally agree that there's a lot of people who've been hurt by the church, but my only problem seeing with that starting off like, "Oh, I'm sorry," they're like, "You're presuming that I was hurt by the church and didn't come to it intellectually."
No, you're right, because I couldn't say that to Jack.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jack's one of those people I couldn't say that to, and I apologize, Jack. Just because I made that statement without really thinking. But you know me, I always start talking without thinking.
No
it's
worries.
Just who I am.
There's grace for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin. Do I get grace from everybody? Jack, will you give me grace? But it's just like if we were a little bit more humble, a little bit more gracious.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, extending grace. We've talked about what does extending grace look like.
Yeah.
Could we extend grace in such a way that, that Justin would be at the restaurant on a Sunday, and Brooks is serving him, and he goes, instead of being a butthole.
I see what you're about to say there.
Well said. Well said.
You're welcome. Thank you for looking at me with that look like, don't say it. But, instead of being a butthole, I'm just going to be the person I'm supposed to be in Christ and, be extra nice to him. Mm-hmm. Not just to be nice, but because he's doing this for me. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yes, it's a job, and yes, I have to do this job to the best of my ability, but you know what I think? Brooks, I just think this. I don't, even if they're Christian or not Christian, I just think people who've never worked in the restaurant industry
should work in a restaurant.
Just one time.
Absolutely.
Just one time.
Just a couple months. Not even that, just a couple months.
just one time. Because, hey, look, I've been in it. And let me tell you something. And
It sucks.
And I was going to say something earlier and I didn't say it, but man, I'll tell you what. The Catholic lady crowd at night in a fine Italian restaurant, they're not so Catholic, and they're pretty handsy. And it's always the older women. Let me tell you something. You work in they get like 2 bottles of wine down at a table of 6 women.
Uh-huh.
You got to kind of cut them off.
They tip better.
Oh man, I ain't gonna lie to you. Hey, no. And Brooks may not be tipped well, but I got tipped well. It's just because I look better than Brooks. No.
Yeah, I mean, there probably is.
He did more squats.
I'm just starting to think maybe I do a bad job.
Hey, do you need me to pick that up for you?
Yeah.
No. So wow, man, we're doing pretty good. I figured that this podcast would be about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours long. Mm-hmm. We haven't reached it yet.
Oh yeah.
No, not yet. So we're still going. So we usually we got this one topic, but we've been kind of all over the place, which I think we do that every podcast.
Oh,
we're a little bit all over the place.
That's fine.
And it's cool.
It is what it
We've
is.
always been like that.
So here's what I want to do. I
Forgetting
want
walls.
Parentheses. Topics.
Yeah. Forgetting. You can take forgetting and put anything beside of it. Topics, questions, ideas, minds, lives, sanity. Throw it in there. We're forgetting it.
Amen.
We're just doing whatever we want to, because the metrics on the podcast is consistent. Hey, we're a little over 100 people every week.
Really?
We're a
Why do
little
you
over.
sound so surprised, Keith?
Thanks for that vote of confidence.
I'm like thinking, do I know 100 people?
We've gotten over 160 some likes on Facebook. So hey, we're Facebook. We hit our milestone on Facebook for our page because you got to get 100 likes to get your first milestone in. Choo choo.
We
got it, baby.
Home, y'all.
I really don't know what I don't know what that looks like, really, but I hope people are listening.
Yeah.
So
Keith is listening to it 75 times.
I made 50 accounts.
Well, no. I couldn't even admit to that because it's just so impossible to do it. I'd have to have like 150 different devices with IP addresses. It just doesn't work. There are at least different Facebook accounts liking our page. Jeez, we're getting no love here, Justin.
No, it's not that I'm shocked by it. It's just like, hey, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. I'm just
this
picking
is
up.
only what episode.
This will be 12. This will be 12.
That's
yeah.
pretty good for only 12 episodes.
I need my obligatory Spanish 12.
Dose?
Dose.
Yeah.
That's it.
It wasn't even him to answer it.
Robbie, my Spanish 3 person, couldn't even answer Dosa for me. I had to be.
Hey man, it's been a while since I've been in Spanish.
Like, I just saw the
I've taken 5 years of
So
Spanish.
it's like
I'm the translator.
Wow.
I translate for the staff that can't speak English and the people that come in that can't speak English. So I'm right there with you, man.
Really? Do you want a job? I'm not legit. I got a legit job for you. I mean, like, you can come work for me.
Yeah.
At my job, and just be and just it's physical labor,
It's
but
fine. That's what I do.
but and it is. I don't know if it's as much money as you make there. Maybe, but man, you could ride. We work with us every morning. We work long hours, but
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, you know,
Just translate.
look at me. I'm trying to hire people
Yeah, I know, on the podcast.
on the podcast, right? I need help, man.
Son,
Don't
it all
know.
started with a podcast.
Oh my god. And that's going to do it for part 1. Go ahead and go check us out on part 2. If you haven't downloaded it yet, check us out on iTunes and Stitcher. Hey, while we're at it, go ahead and check us out at forgettingwalls.com. Over on Twitter at forgettingwalls and facebook.com/forgettingwalls. Check us out. Leave us a comment. Share your story with us. That's what we're all about. Check out part 2. Thanks.